Game 2, NBA Finals, Dallas Mavericks at the Miami Heat. Stephen, first game, what a game. I mean, at first it looked like it was paint drying watching that first quarter. I think that was the lowest scoring first quarter I've ever seen in the NBA Finals. But then things picked up and they seesawed most of the game until once again, the Miami Heat, fourth quarter. I mean, these guys are just becoming fourth quarter mavens. What's your take of game one, and what do we got to look forward to moving forward?
Well, I like the Heat to win the series. I was hoping that with the long layoff between the opening of the series, Dallas might steal that first one. I thought there might be some randomness to it, and then I would like to make a series bet on Miami if they were down 0-1, thinking I could get really good value. For a while, it looked that way, but then, as you said, Mark, we know that the Heat closes out games, and they closed out this one, and I think it's pretty obvious who's the better team here, and it's not Dallas.
Well, given the first, game, you got to definitely say that, Miami got the job done, but looking at the game, there's so many ways that you can break this first game down. I mean, first off, 33 points in the first quarter. I was on the under in game one, and my thinking was the days off, the teams would be rested. I've always been a big proponent that rested teams are going to play harder defense. It takes more energy to play defense than it does to play offense. So I thought we'd get a defensive battle. And so often, Stephen, in these big games, NBA Finals, Super Bowls, college football national championship game, when you come out that first quarter of the Super Bowl or the first quarter of the national championship and the first game in the NBA Finals, I like to relate it to like a boxing match where the two heavyweights, they're just jabbing. They're not throwing their the big right hook right out of the gate. They're trying to see what the other guy's going to do, fill them out, and that's another reason why I like the under in game one. If you take the game from the second quarter on, they actually played at a pace that would have produced a 190-point total from game two on if you just averaged out the final three quarters. Do you see that carrying over into game two, or do you think we're going to have another defensive battle? And we've got, the news come out late last night after the game and today, more on it. Dirk's got an injury. He hurt a tendon in his non-shooting hand, but, anybody that's played basketball knows you dribble with both hands, you catch, block, the ball's hitting your hand constantly. What kind of effect do you think it's going to be on Dirk, or they're going to shoot him up and he'll be ready to go?
Well, excuse me. Certainly it's not a plus, for Dallas. Even if it's his non-shooting hand, you're talking about a torn tendon or whatever. That's kind of serious. That's kind of significant. So it's not a plus. And Miami was able to win that game without really having to use LeBron to lock down on Dirk. And I think if it comes down to crunch time where Dallas is still in this game, that's going to be the matchup. I just don't think I still think as long as this series is in Miami, where Miami has won every home game in the playoffs, they're stronger defensively than Dallas, and they can ratchet up a notch. And I just think they've done this in the past. They did it with Chicago. And they can do it with Dallas. I mean, Dirk has had an unbelievable playoff, throughout the whole playoffs. He's been absolutely tremendous. But this is the toughest defense that he's gone up against. And LeBron, why I think LeBron is such a great superstar. It's not just his offense. This guy plays tremendous defense. He can be a lockdown defender.
When he wants to play defense, there's no question. He's very talented on a defensive end, and so often he's more offensive-minded, the superstars. I mean, let's face it, the superstars get the glory for putting the ball in the hoop, not keeping it out of it. I mean, that's just a fact of the game. But going one thing you said, as long as this game's in Miami in game two, we've talked about in different podcasts, the zigzag theory. The only reason I'm bringing this up right now, I'm not trying to be devil's advocate, but I do want to make a point. A lot of handicappers will automatically roll to Dallas in game two because of the zigzag and the thinking behind, the goal is just to split on the road those first two games. And that is the case in the playoffs. the one thing I got to point out, and I never could understand is why they do this, but when you get to the NBA Finals, we've played a 2-2-1-1-1 format all through the playoffs. But then when you get to the NBA Finals, you're 2-3-2. And playing the 2-3-2 format makes that second home game just as important as the first home game for the home team, because it's not you're just going on the road for 2 and you still won your back. You're 1-1 and you're going to play 3 in a row on the road. Now, and I don't have the number in front of me, it's just history because I'm old as dirt, but I don't think maybe once or twice, if any, has the home team ever swept the 3 games at home. History has shown that the road team will get one of those. But do you think that changes the psyche for Game 2, Miami, that they are going to still be focused with that game?
I think it's a good handicapping tool, Marco, raising that format, which they're doing. I think until Dallas shows that they're tough inside, that they can out-rebound Miami, which I don't think they can. They didn't out-rebound Oklahoma City in any of those, in any game in that series. They got out-rebounded by 10 in the first game against Miami. I just don't think, I think they have serious matchup problems, Dallas. I think Jason Kidd, you can lock him down, with LeBron or whoever you want to use. Where Dallas, to get enough offense to dent Miami's defense, it means Jason Terry, it means Peja Stojakovic. Look what you give up defensively, matchup-wise. Right. And the big key here for Miami, Marco, is that this is not a traditional type of matchup where they can go with Dallas, where you got to play point guard. They can play Mike Miller. They don't have to have a true point guard. Their weak spot during the season was point guard and center. Mike Bibby and Mario Chalmers, who is not a prime-time type player, these were their point guards. They don't have to use these guys at point. They've gotten tougher inside with Haslam coming back from his injury. Mentioned previously on our video casts, Haslam's contributions. We also, I think, should strongly look at Mike Miller, what he's done. They've been able to incorporate him more into their attack without using a traditional point guard. In the last 2 games against the Bulls, now this is a hockey stat, but I think it still can be applicable to basketball in a short series like this. The last 2 games against the Bulls, when Miller was on the court, Marco, plus 50. That was the rating. That's how much they outscored the Bulls. They outscored the Mavericks by 2 points with Miller on the court. So the last 3 games, it's a plus 52. That's a pretty powerful rating. And about Dallas's only really lockdown type of defender is Sean Marion. He can't go the minutes he used to. He's aging. He's not the defensive player he once was, although he's still decent. He was a -9, plus minus. So I just think there's a lot of factors pointing towards Miami here. Now, you talk zigzag, can Dallas get this game? Dallas has always been a very good road team, spread-wise, and I think, did they not have the best road record in the NBA? They may have, but...
let's not forget they also covered 15 in a row at one point from the end of the regular season into the playoffs, too.
But what incentive is there for me to take Dallas? Is the odds maker giving me some extra points? No, it's still, the line we're looking at is 4.5.
Well, I think that a lot of people are looking at it. The game ended at 8, okay? And yeah, the spread was 4.5, but really until that last 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, which again, I would keep repeating it, this is what's happening over and over with Miami. This is a situation that Dallas was there. I mean, Dallas had a lead at, a lot of points in this game. I think there was 10 lead changes in the game. They were back and forth. So a lot of people are going to look and say, can Dallas shoot that bad? They're going to point to, and I think it was one of the most important points of the game, when LeBron hit that 3 at the end of the third quarter, drills it. That's a dagger in the heart, especially for the home team. You've got the crowd that's in the game. It's a tight game, and you make a three-pointer at the buzzer like that, and the place just erupts. And the crowd's now in it. They're loud and on their feet. Start the fourth quarter. The players feed off of it. The game itself, I have not made a decision on what I'm going to do yet. Total-wise and for the video, I'm going to be going with the over. And here's what I'm looking at. I agree with you. Dallas had a good defense this year, but against Miami, their defense is not as good as Miami's. They cannot win in the type of game they played last night. If you're going to play, let's walk it up the floor, let's pass it around. And you know, I even sent out a tweet during the game. Passing the ball, Dallas was putting on a clinic last night on ball movement. I mean, the way they were passing the ball around. But the problem with that is you take too much of the clock away. When you run in the possessions that deep, every trip down the floor, this is what you end up with. They only had 67 shots in the game. That is not Dallas Maverick basketball. The other flip side that kept this game staying low is their defense. They went with the zone, which did give Miami problems. The problem with it was when Miami was missing shots because they were in the zone, Miami was able to beat them to the boards. Miami had 10 more offensive rebounds. That's where the game was won, was right there. The key three-pointers that Miami was able to hit in the offensive boards. You get 10 offensive more boards, that's, and how many times you rebound and put it right back in, not accounting if you kick it back out and take another, full shot possession clock. I think you're going to see a faster tempo. I think Dallas has to work a faster tempo just to get them more shots off, and it becomes a numbers game for Dallas. That's the only way I see they have a shot in here. So I'm going to look at this game. I'm going to go with the over. We're getting a little break on the total because of last night being so low scoring. They brought this total down to 186. I'm going to go over. I've got a projection. Right now I'm projecting the game right around the number. Miami 98-94. But I think we're going to be in the upper 90s with the score that's going to take us over the total. You got any thoughts?
I'm handicapping it more from a side perspective. Certainly cannot disagree with your reasoning, and if I had to play a total, I probably would play over based on a lot of what you're saying. It makes sense to me. I just think I think it's a fair point spread. I think Miami's the better team. They have home court advantage, and they're the better defensive team. This team is like entirely different since Game 2 of the Bulls series. That's where I think you have to look at Miami. Forget about all the past, all the drama and all this LeBron comments, before the season and all that. Look from Game 2 of the Bulls series. That's the first time where they've had Haslam and Miller on the court together. They're in sync. They've got a tighter rotation now. They're closing games like a champion. I think you have to stay with Miami, especially at home, until proven otherwise. And I don't think this point spread is taxing, is that big of a tax.
There's nobody that's rode LeBron more than I have, because it's sour grapes being the way he left Cleveland, because Cleveland was my adopted NBA team from Pittsburgh.
Understand, Marco, let's put it aside and let's talk just handicapping. Put your personal feelings aside, because he did not handle that right. But
he's
who cares now at this point?
He's playing on a different level now. I have to agree 1%. 110%. But I tell you what, I would wish him and Dwayne Wade both that every time they make a dunk, they don't have to make the chest.
Well, I wish the NBA players didn't have tattoos. This is the world we live in. You and I are old school. We don't like this, but this is the world.
Act like you've been there before and you've done that. But that is one thing that the Mavericks do. I mean, they didn't celebrate after the conference finals because they still had a mission.
They're a class team. I like Dallas. I think they're a
even with
class
Mark Cuban
team.
As an owner.
I like him. He's as a former journalist. He's quotable. He's the kind of guy that'll say something.
I want to have to see David Stern hand him the trophy. That's what I want to see. That's worth the price of admission.
This is not, unfortunately, a science fiction movie that we're watching. This is real life. People are putting money down on this. We're trying to handicap this, so we've got to be logical here.
Steven's leaning towards Miami. I'm leaning towards the over. Not an official best bet, just a regular selection for me here. Take the over on Game 2. And we're going to be back with some other videos. We're going to talk about, we're two months into the baseball season. Stephen and I is going to break down baseball for you. And then we're also going to have a little video talking about the poker news. Big week in Vegas. World Series of Poker kicked off on Monday. So stay tuned for more videos from pregame.com.